Hello, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the World Championship Series Challenger. My name is Fear Dragon, and I am joined here by Nathanius here at the Burbank, California Blizzard Arena, home of the best pizza in the United States. What's it up, Nathanius? How's it going?
Oh my God.
What?
I hope you guys are just more savage to Fear Dragon than you usually are in the chat today, because he deserves it, and so does Zombie Grub.
I don't understand what you have against strawberry tortilla chip pizza.
You cannot take a normal food, put anything on it, and still call it the original food. It's not how it works.
That strawberry tortilla chip pizza was one of the best pizzas I've ever had. Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll hijack the show if I have to
welcome
get us
to
back on
WCS
track.
Challenger. In case you missed out on the other three groups, we actually had some really awesome games already being played out, and this was the way that we did it. 16 players managed to qualify for WCS Challenger, a handful of them qualifying through the ladder, a handful qualifying through open qualifiers, and a handful just getting seeded in due to their performance through WCS Winter. And of course, we have those 16 players seeded into 4 groups of 4. 2 players advance out of each group to the playoffs. This is the final group today for both Europe and North America. Only 2 players left to decide who is going to be making it out to the playoffs. How do you feel about the format, Nathanius, that we have only seen a few times?
You know, I've never heard of this. You know, 2 matches are played. The winners face off, the losers face off, and then there's a final. I've never heard of this concept. I think this could be really big. It sounds like the great StarCraft legend, right? So maybe we could try to like cut that down to an abbreviation and just maybe call it that format. You know what I mean?
Oh, GSL. I was like, what are the first letters?
Thank you.
It's early for us, guys. But yeah, hopefully you guys have had a good time checking out all the other things. Now, these players are still going to be playing for a pretty decent prize pool of $10,000 per region. That's $10K for Europe, $10K for North America, $1,600 to first place. And everyone that gets knocked out in this group stage still walks away with $400 just from making it this far. And of course, all the WCS points that are going to be very useful for those seeds in the WCS Spring and Summer Championship that are coming on up.
Yeah, that's right. Lots of StarCraft heading your way, of course, as we get towards some of the tournaments. We have the players all coming together to play in these wonderful tournaments. It's been fun. I mean, we've been doing a lot of the Challenger shows and WCS Winter. We've been hanging out here, but it's nice to have you all as we get to the end of our group stage. And I think this Europe group in particular looks really good. Yesterday's matches were awesome. Europe and North America. I would highly recommend checking them all out.
Especially if you're a Terran player.
Yeah, lots of very good, exciting games across the board. We did have everything: battle cruisers, cyclones, marine mine. Yeah, that's
Blink
it.
DTs,
Blink DTs.
everything.
Disruptors getting interference matrix at the last second to ruin new players' chances of advancing.
Those rub games, those were pretty great from yesterday. But
they were amazing. We had a great TvT to start today, too.
As you mentioned, we do have some pretty good games set up for today. As we take a look, you guys can see the players that are going to be playing today. It is going to be starting off with Clem versus HeroMarine. A Terran versus Terran, as we have the potential for 2 more Terrans to advance out. Oh my God, Nate, we could have 4 Terrans
But
in the
what
playoffs.
will people complain about if
Maybe
4
we should-
Terrans are in the playoffs?
Maybe we should
Fear
revisit
Dragon?
TvP, you know? It seems like these Terran players doing a little bit too well. Maybe we should, I don't know, make the Widow Mines heal shields instead of damage to them.
Yeah. I was thinking we could go back to the Legacy of the Void Beta and make it so that when Zealots charge, it does 30 damage again instead of 8. That was the best. That was the best version of Legacy.
When they were accidentally doubling the damage. Yeah.
Yes.
They're applying the damage twice. Of course, also worth mentioning, Petit Drogo versus Namshar is going to be the match following this up. And you guys can see here that those other days of Challenger, here were the results. Cyril and Alazer were the players that advanced out from Group A. Rainer and Showtime, the players that advanced out from Group B. Yesterday, we had Euthermal and Soul advancing out of Group C. And now we got 2 last players that are going to advance out of Group D.
Pick 2 right now.
Ooh, you know, my heart says Clem, although I don't think it's the most likely thing.
HeroMarine and Klem are getting out of this group.
I would like for Namshar and Clem, I think, of these players, but I do think HeroMarine is probably going to advance out, and I think I could see Namshar advancing.
I see both Terrans getting out of this group.
Yeah.
Easily.
Easily?
They're both going to 2-0.
What? That's not possible. So, again, our first match, Clem versus HeroMarine. Give me your thoughts on this. If both of them are going to 2-0, who's going to 2-0 harder?
Probably going to be HeroMarine.
HeroMarine.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we see good players, right? We know a guy like Sol, for example, very good Terran player. And in his games yesterday, he played very well. But when he had to go up against Thermal, there was a clear difference in the way that the two players were controlling their units, playing that matchup. Thermal was very out on the map. He was very on top of everything. I like seeing that. I think that that gives you a huge advantage in this series. The style that Sol played was very good for the base trade map that they had. But I feel that HeroMarine in this series is going to end up, if he's, you know, playing to his standard, he should be like that Thermal, the player out on the map, the more experienced, confident player, taking map control, expanding heavily behind it, and I just see him building up a lot of momentum in this match. They don't call him Big Gabe for nothing. There's a 20-foot statue of him, I've heard, in his hometown.
I'm looking forward to it. And I'm with you on most of that. The one addendum that I will add is that I think Clem is one of those guys who does not know the meaning of passivity. He is one of those kids that has been coming up, and he loves getting super in his opponent's face, getting extremely aggressive. So I'm really looking forward to seeing. Just
he likes being really in people's faces. Does he have a diss track yet for Big Gabe then?
You know,
that's what I'm waiting on.
That's coming when he hits like 17 and a half years old.
Okay, okay.
But we're going to be starting down here, ladies and gentlemen, in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, top of Mouse Esports' very own HeroMarine.
Not sure what the age restriction is on getting in people's faces all the time like that. In the top left, his opponent, our young blue Terran player, he is Clem.
Well, we all know a good diss track still includes a few curse words here and there, and you legally can't curse in Europe until you hit the age of 18.
Well, then we'll have to wait. We'll just have to wait a little while. But, man, TvT. This matchup has kind of been fleshed out mostly because people have had to deal with this very brutal meta for so long. And I'm going to say it, it's still there. The Raven is a huge thing. But we've had a little bit more variety from the TvT, and frankly speaking, we don't really see TvT too much because we don't have too many Terran players that compete at this level. But when we do see it, a lot of Raven play. The Raven's almost always the deciding factor in a lot of early engagements, and it's still a big deciding factor in a lot of mid-late engagements. Weirdly enough, the game resets to being pretty normal if both players can lose the Ravens. It's one of those things where you get them, but then you almost never replace them unless you reach the extreme late game, which you still don't really get to that often either.
And that has to do with the fact that Starport needs to have that tech lab, which is not always the most easy thing to find the time for,
Well, if you're
right?
playing mech, you want Vikings, and if you're playing bio, you want Medivacs or Vikings, or Liberators if you're playing against mech. So the best time to get the Raven out is very early on. Interference Matrix is extremely good when there are fewer units on the map, naturally. And if you get into a bio mid-game fight, Dorito Cannon is huge. Being able to land that anti-armor missile is very, very big. We've seen the impact that it can have on those straight-up fights. And look at this, the Patrol with the Reaper, Patrol with the SCV. This is because it's not uncommon on maps with cliffs especially for a Terran player to proxy the Reaper, and then they use the SCV to soak the first shot, and then your Reaper wins the 1v1 because the SCV took a hit. And that's why sometimes you'll see Terran players have that SCV patrol with it in the hopes that it will tank the shot instead, and it will be able to get a little bit of damage in there.
Absolutely. Just staying a little bit defensive. Both of these guys are not really taking any major risks. Just getting that super duper first primary scout there for Clem, and HeroMarine just playing in the dark for now. Probably going to move out. Actually, no, he goes to the 2 Marine follow-up, right? So that usually means that you're not going to immediately move out with the Reapers and Hellions.
He's going to drop with mine in the Marines, most likely. He could try to poke front with the Cyclone. There is opportunity for him to go for the tank drop that we also saw yesterday use, the Marine tank drop.
This is a pretty nice map for that as well, right?
Yeah. The main base is big enough to try and do it. But Clem with the Reactor Hellion opening, and we kind of talk about this, we don't see it a crazy amount, so he's just going to do it for a little bit of early map control, and if his opponent were building multiple Reapers and Hellions, like we saw Thermal do yesterday, having double Hellion production is going to be pretty effective at dealing with that, but his follow-up will naturally be the same one as HeroMarine's, the Raven.
Okay. Well, we do have the Reaper and Hellion finally making their move across the map to get some scouting information. They have to be careful not to get caught here by Clem's Hellions, making their way around, looking for any units they could potentially snipe off as they go down to his 3rd base, they go down or up to his 4th or 5th base, and then dart back down, just covering all of his bases, and might actually run into them up over here on the high ground. Ooh, HeroMarine a little bit slow to react against so many Hellions. He's going to end up losing both of those units.
Yep, as long as he's got something back home, though, he should be fine. Yeah, I mean, the bunker will be enough. Like, if you try to run past this, one of the Hellions to take a little bit of damage. He can pull the SCVs around towards the bunker. I'm not worried about it. I don't think he'll suicide in, not yet.
Okay.
If he plays mech, he'll be careful with the Hellions. If he's gonna go into bio, then the Hellions will probably be run by at some point. But having them out on the field where they are is good, mostly because it will be a first warning if HeroMarine move out and try to do like one of those take Raven pushes. But both players are just building a 2nd Raven, getting their tanks, 3rd command centers, extra gas, extremely heavily mirrored builds so far out of both of them.
Yeah, really like the micro there, using the Raven for the high ground vision and then specifically locking onto the Reaper, since that's the one that will be a little bit more nimble and agile in terms of scouting information and stuff. So sniping that off, just the Hellions left over. They're going to continue to dart around the map. We got Stim starting out for both players. I mean, that entire production tab was very mirrored for a split second. So you guys can see that there's not a ton of differences between their builds so far.
Yep. Outside of this opening, it's just there's a Cyclone for HeroMarine and there's a couple extra Hellions, a couple Hellions really for Clem, but that's not going to have a huge impact on this. With the support of the Raven, the Cyclone's not going to end up fighting those Hellions anyway, and even if it were, it would be totally fine. So the real question becomes, who's going to try and take the 3rd first? Who is going to try and make a push onto the 3rd? My prediction at the start of this was that HeroMarine would be the player to try to take the initiative. If we were at prom, he would be the one asking to dance Fear Dragon, and when you shyly say no, he will say, it's going to be fine.
Well, Clem is going to be the first one to move out.
Oh, wow.
I do want to note that the double engineering base, a good bit earlier there for HeroMarine. He's going to have a solid 30, 45-second lead on the upgrades for 1-1, which can definitely play a huge impact in some of these fights, especially if they are able to take it at the exact perfect time, right as you're able to capitalize on those upgrades.
Yeah, well, so I didn't quite expect him to make this maneuver. Of course, taking this 3rd base is not going to be an option while your opponent is sieging you outside of your natural. HeroMarine may just force his way down the ramp, though.
Yeah, it seems when HeroMarine is able to get down his own natural expansion ramp, I feel like this becomes a much harder push in to make, right? If you catch your opponent right before they move down, then yeah, maybe you can contain them, delay the 3rd for a little bit, but this is a harder ask now.
Yep, it's not a difficult position to make this work from. This 3rd base is hard to hold in general when being sieged, especially by siege tanks, because they have just enough range to kind of hit across that gap. Gonna use
both
matrix.
Ravens for Clem going down there.
Yeah, he gets interference matrix on HeroMarine's 2nd Raven, but it still has energy that he can use. So being able to push back would be nice, but this is the vision issue, right? There's 3 tanks, it looks like, or no, just 2 of them that can hit the command center, but that's going to be enough to really draw a lot of weight here.
Yeah, the Vikings here for HeroMarine going to be able to push back Clem's air force right there.
Oh, wow.
The Marines actually able to snipe off one of the Vikings there for HeroMarine, and just continuing to scan. I think that's like the 3rd scan he's used so far, just to continue to
There's no reason not to. He's forcing so much resources to be spent repairing that command center. And if every time that he's not hitting it, he's going good. Okay, so there we go. He's going to use the interference matrix to move forward, pick off 2 of the siege tanks, but actually one of the tanks is still able to hit that base, able to hit that command center. Just needs the vision of it again. But it does come down to, naturally, using all those scans, he's going to run out of scan energy to use them as well.
Yeah. 1-1 is now finished up here for HeroMarine. So if this does come down to Marines versus Marines eventually, if Clem ever wants to try and push a little bit further forward, that's going to be a bit of a problem for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's not pushing past these blocks. What he'd ideally like to do is get the other 2 tanks in range of the command center and force him to have to take action again. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. Clem is going to just back it up.
There's Unsiege. The last tank is going to get out of there. Did some nice damage, kind of equalizing some of the worker deficit that they had, but both these players going up to 75, 71 workers. I mean, a fairly decent worker count for a TvT, and even a 4th base being dropped down there for Clem. There's the first sensor tower also going up for HeroMarine. I know you were talking a lot about this yesterday in our TvTs, about the importance of those sensor towers, being able to spot out your opponent's army, reposition yourself.
Becoming bigger and bigger as more time goes by. We've seen more and more Terran players doing it. There's no reason not to. It's worth it. It's worth every penny. It really is. It's worth every resource that it costs to get a sensor tower up in this matchup, especially.
Actually, okay, so Clem has his 1-1 done now. He has not started on his 2-2. There it is, okay, starting on the 2-2. I was going to say, you really don't want that upgrade lead to go even further in your opponent's favor. That definitely can start to snowball.
No, that is not what you want. So, Marine's going to get picked off, just kind of checking position. Another sensor tower is going to go up. I hope it's about time. It's early enough in the evening. You Europeans, Euro bros out there and sisters, get your popcorn ready. I think it's going to be a long set of games today.
Yeah.
Looking forward to this group. I think this is a really nice one, really fun one. HeroMarine taking a couple shots there. I like that Clem has taken the assertive position. This map in TvT, frankly speaking, it's a nightmare. There's choke points galore. That lower valley is really hard to break out of, because even if you have more units, even if you have better upgrades, pushing into a choke point versus many tanks, forget about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just the fact that he has been so assertive with his army. He's also had really great map vision on the corners. He's sending those Marines, those spotter Marines. So any single time that HeroMarine tries to even move out with a little bit of his force, Clem has been spotting it out. He has had total map control, which, I don't know, if you think about yesterday's games with Uthermal versus Seoul, that was one of the big things that won Uthermal that series.
Yeah, it was very, very good for Uthermal. I mean, look at it this way, right? We've got the sensor tower already at the 4th for Clem, and he doesn't need to play for position on the army. He's just trying to play for position on this base that his Vikings can do some work so that he can continue to poke and harass. He'd like to get his siege tanks nuzzled in a little bit further towards the north side, but HeroMarine, oh my goodness, he's just going to dive on top of this army, throws the interference matrix out. That Raven proving to be extremely useful while the tanks siege up for HeroMarine on the high ground. And tanks, I don't know that he actually can see all the way back.
Wow.
Shoot back at HeroMarine's siege tanks.
So he is going to be able to unlodge or dislodge Clem from that position there, using the 2-2 upgrade lead.
Yeah, he did this right when 2-2 finished up, and 2-2 is about to finish for Clem, but it wasn't done yet. And it's a huge, the difference between even just that one double upgrade set is ginormous.
The one thing I do want to note is that HeroMarine did have a 15 or 20 Marine advantage going into that fight, and now that advantage is gone. He did trade them out for tanks, which is awesome. Usually, the tanks having a really high tank count is going to be a little bit more valuable, but that does give Clem an opportunity to continue to be more aggressive with his own Marines now. We're going to see if he can find those positions, because it is 5 tanks at 10. He still needs to find the correct angles and start getting maybe a little bit more assertive from multiple angles now, using that army, as opposed to all just in one position.
Yeah, these guys are setting themselves up for a breakout now. HeroMarine coming up the ramp. Clem with a few less siege tanks to fall back on, and his Marines are actually still a little bit hurt from the previous stimmings. The HeroMarine has said, look, you've contained me long enough, brother. I am coming out. So you better get this party started.
Oh, that is not a choke point that Clem wants to engage through. Those two rocks creating a bit of a death trap there, and HeroMarine knows it. He finally is able to push on forward. And Nate, where are the tanks for Clem? They've all been picked off. There's only 2 left over on the map.
13 tanks versus 2. Ouch.
Yeah, ouch. That's going to be a big problem unless Clem can somehow work his way through all these Marines. And
HeroMarine trying to give us a preview of the epic battle we'll all be watching tonight as he starts to encroach upon the 3rd, 4th base valley of Clem, coming down the ramp. The Vikings with the high ground spread, and the Marines outside is going to focus down that sensor tower, deny him the vision. He's also on top of that 2nd factory. The siege tanks for Clem have been boxed into the natural expansion. He cannot protect the 3rd anymore, and that 4th base is going to be put under pressure soon as well. 15 siege tanks for the German Terran player, as Big Gabe says, you've contained me long enough. It is time for you to be the one locked up. GG.
HeroMarine taking that first game with a really, really excellent breakout there. I mean, things were all looking great for Clem at the beginning. He was doing some great map control, continuing to siege up HeroMarine, but HeroMarine finding that one opportunity and saying, okay, got my upgrade lead. This is the time to go. And he takes a really, really good trade there. That just carries him to the victory.
Yeah, no, it was expertly done. I mean, there's a level of cool, calm collectiveness in Terran versus Terran. When your opponent comes up with that early siege pick, Clem is on your side of the map the whole time, but he's bleeding out units here and there. And really, another huge factor is when he pushed him off of the 4th base, he used the Raven from the beginning of the game, 2 interference matrices onto those tanks, the tanks up at the front, and at that point, it allows him to trade, you were talking about it, his Marine advantage. He trades out the edge of Marines that he had over his opponent, but he gets all the siege tanks, and that in TvT is always a huge deciding factor. Getting up to 15 siege tanks, it takes so long to build them. In most Terrans, you're never going over 2 factories. To get 15 tanks is an insane amount of resources, it's an insane amount of build time, and the value of that cannot be overstated. There's no amount of Marines that's going to break a 15 tank choke line outside your natural. You're done. Forget about it.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a big problem. So we're going to see how Clem's going to try and adjust in this next game. Maybe it's just a matter of just getting the upgrades a little bit faster or something, stay on top of those. But I think that I really like still a lot of his early game moves. I still liked a lot of that stuff. There's only 1 or 2 things that didn't go quite his way in the early game, like the Raven exchange with the Vikings, where he lost both of his Ravens very quickly, and one of the 2 of the Ravens still survived there for HeroMarine. Besides that, I would love to see Clem just try a similar sort of style, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily have like a crazy amount of input there for Clem. Losing the Ravens was obviously a huge, huge, huge part of why that game did not go well for him. If you're going to trade your Ravens out, you have to make sure you get your opponent's Ravens. Even suiciding your Vikings at that point to get them, he was already using all of his scans to get the vision on the command center to attack it in the first place. But you gotta make sure that you're on a similar playing field when it comes to that Raven usage. HeroMarine having that Raven alive, in my mind, is a huge part of why he was able to take so little losses, breaking the contain on that 4th base.
Absolutely. Well, we're moving on to Port Alexander for game number 2. We'll see if Clem can turn things around now. This is just the first match of the day, so plenty more StarCraft coming up after this. Don't have to worry about either one of these players getting knocked out this early on.
Now, this is the first of many, darling, and we've got a wonderful map for this. Port Alexander is definitely one of the ones that you're going to see a little more drop action. I feel like this map really lends itself towards the big drops, doom drops, and all that, because you cannot really cover all of the air entrances to the main or the natural, even with turrets. You can go down the bottom edge of the map. You can slip around there. There's a lot of space. So, you know, if you're one of those like NA Terrans where you're like, I'm just going to build a ring of missile turrets, like you're going to need like 3 rings. You're going to need to look like one of those people that's trying to, you know, sell a jewelry store off their back in like Battery Park or something. It's not a good look, Fear Dragon. So that's one of the things that makes this map so tricky in TvT, is you need to be very aware of the angles your opponent can come at you from.
I love that that's the picture that we paint of the NA Terrans. Is like, I'm gonna build a missile turret in a random location.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, I agree with you. that is a great tactic that happens on NA.
Why did the NA Terrans get married earlier, Fear Dragon?
Why, Nate?
Because they're so good at getting those rings, man.
That was a terrible joke.
It's okay. The Europeans win more, so it's not really a problem for them. Command center starts up. Low ground for Clem. SCV is kind of being annoying, but doesn't really matter. And he's going to start his own command center back home. So it's Reaper expands on both sides. Because this map is so garbage for Reapers, there's really no way in or out aside from going through the front. We don't really see the big Reaper play as much, and that's why it's not the gas first barracks, gas, Reaper factory Hellion, you know, Starport Liberator, Reaper Hellion. And that is, despite being a very popular build, just not effective on this map because you can't run the Reapers around. And conversely, because there's only that one choke point, you don't need them to defend either. You can just build a bunker if you really want to.
Clem is going to move in. There's that SCV you were talking about, but this is an aggressive SCV. He also gets the first shot off and is going to be able to delay that.
And that's why you do it, because he's getting a reactor. So he actually can't do too much without having to bring more SCVs down. And even then, it's still a matter of, like, you want the SCV to be attacked by the enemy Reaper, but he has to focus down. And because he does it, the Reaper getting very low for HeroMarine, Clem is just going to go right up inside of the main base and poke even more, but I think the smart move is to jump back down and just delay the command center.
Yep.
Now, almost every Terran build, that command center provides 15 supply. It is what allows you to produce units non-stop. So if he does not get that command center finished very soon, he's going to find himself unable to build his next 2 Hellions.
Okay, he will be able to finish that up as he finally gets those first 2 Hellions out and can push back that Reaper. But really, really nice opening there for Clem, getting 2 of those workers in exchange for just a little bit of lost mine time for 1, which he even keeps alive and sends back home to continue mining.
It's a chip shot, but it's nice. It's one of those things that just gives you a little bit of a mental edge over your opponent.
Nice.
You get to say that you have done a good bit of damage.
I like this. Both of these players, both of them going for the fast Liberator.
Both going for Hellions off a reactor and Liberators, which I'm going to say is... It's interesting, because this is not an unusual setup. Like the Hellion Reaper into Liberator off double gas first is very popular. But to see it after the Reaper expand, there's a certain degree of risk involved because a lot of builds like this, you will build those Hellions and then swap. And last game, it was HeroMarine who swapped and then went into a Cyclone, which is a very natural counter to the Liberator. It can play very well around the range. It can do damage. So I find that interesting because it's a little bit reckless on both sides to just send a Liberator straight across the map at the start of the game. But hey, maybe it'll be able to obtain some value. We have the Raven on the way for Clem. And both players are moving their Hellions out at very similar times. This could end up working in Clem's advantage, though, as his Hellions are much closer than HeroMarine's.
They are, but that's also because I think he moved out with 6 Hellions, whereas HeroMarine was waiting for 8. So there is going to be a little difference in the number of Hellions over here. Clem also only has 2 Marines, so he's going to immediately start losing some units over here.
Send in the Hellions. Here we go.
Raises the depot so he can at least keep his main base secure. And both these players are just going to be losing their entire natural, but here comes the Liberators. On both sides, they're both not paying attention to their main mineral lines.
Pew, pew.
So Nate, I haven't really seen a TvT like
both
this.
Both players lost all their workers.
Okay, there's a Cyclone. The safety Cyclone going to help out HeroMarine quite a bit. 6 Hellions and a Reaper are going to have a hard time burning down a supply depot wall, but it does make it hard to repair. The Hellions for HeroMarine are retreating back. No, they're staying on the other side of the map. I'm a little bit surprised that he's not retreating back home.
So this Liberator just doesn't want to have an auto turret dropped underneath it.
Oh, HeroMarine's diving back in. He's going back into the natural. He's diving on top of a tank. He gets into point-blank range with a tank in siege mode, cannot attack, and now even more SCVs
Line him up, Husky. SCV's trying to get away.
Okay, Depot is raised in time. Clem down to 12 workers, but he's also still putting pressure on the other side of the map. He's trying to deny that natural, and he did get it down to burning. Is he gonna try and make the same move his opponent did? No, 4 or so Hellions. I don't think you can really take out that tank. Now with the Raven there.
This is just like when 2 super jack dudes punch each other in the face at the exact same time.
Do you auto turret drop to take care of these Hellions?
I mean, you kind of have to, but no, you don't want to do it. Like, I think he's just dead. I think HeroMarine's just...
Wow.
Yeah.
Unexpected turn of events this game.
TvT's a weird matchup, but I don't know if it's come back from 3 SCVs weird for it. Yeah. GG.
HeroMarine with a 2-0 capitalizes on a weird situation a bit better.
I'm going to say it, Fear Dragon. A Cyclone, baby. Clem doesn't build Cyclones at the start of his games. HeroMarine does. HeroMarine wins 2 games in a row. Coincidence? I think not.
I mean, the Cyclone did help out quite a bit and actually be able to push back that Liberator in a reasonable amount of time. That was a big deal.
It's also good against everything else. Like, this is, it's going to sound really weird to say this, but we always talk about, oh, siege tanks. Yeah, they siege, 13 range, great, grand, wonderful. But if he had left the tank unsieged, maybe could have actually killed 1 or 2 of those Hellions.
Oh, yeah.
It opened up at least the surface area for the SCVs to try to repair. But if he had just gone for a Cyclone first, I think he could have had a lot more utility there with the range, the mobility, because he wasted his auto turrets trying to kill Hellions. He actually couldn't kill the Liberator in any effective manner. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. That game 2 is just like both players did very similar strategies, but what set them apart was, and you know, it's right, we talk about where you gain and lose edges. Clem did get that early poke on the command center, but his follow-up just wasn't as strong. The Cyclone, it feels like it comes out faster. It's much more mobile. The damage that it gets is going to be a little bit more consistent against those units, and it helps with the anti-air. So, good job by HeroMarine. Not surprised to see him win, but I would have liked to see Clem get another go at it in a longer map, because game 1 definitely had some He was much more on the map and in control of that game than I thought he would be. HeroMarine just outplayed him because, well, you know, HeroMarine's got like 2 brains or something weird going on. That's why they call him Big Gabe. He's got, you know, he's got a lot going on over there.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that does mean that our first series has concluded, but we still got 4 more for Europe and 5 more for NA left over. Let's take a look at those European matches. Our next match is going to be Drogo versus Namshar. Loser will play off versus Clem after that. Following that up will be HeroMarine versus the winner, and then the decider match. So with that PVZ heading up next, you ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to want to go anywhere. Drogo versus Namshar will be here soon.